Power, pride, and secrets collide in a palace where nothing is as ceremonial as it seems. The story opens with the legacy of a royal family born in the Joseon era. Once powerful, now reduced to a symbol. But beneath the polished image, ambition still burns. Enter Huiju, a woman who has fought her entire life to be seen. Back in her elite high school days, she constantly outshined her privileged peers, including her rival Ryu Minsuk. Hated for her illegitimate status and looked down on by both students and faculty, Huiju never bowed her head. She fought back every single time. Now grown, she's a ruthless business powerhouse, dominating her family's company, Castle Beauty. Cold, sharp, and fiercely competitive, she crushes her brother Taeju at every turn, even as he resorts to dirty tricks to bring her down. Huiju doesn't just hate losing. She refuses to. At the royal palace, another storm brews. Grand Prince Ian, brilliant, rebellious, and dangerously indifferent to royal expectations, rules as regent. Loved by the public but resented within the palace, he walks a thin line between duty and defiance. His every move unsettles the powerful, especially the calculating Queen Mother Irang. Their worlds collide at the Crown Prince's lavish birthday banquet. Huiju arrives in a bold red dress, instantly becoming the center of attention and controversy. Mocked by the press and whispered about by elites, she shuts down every insult with icy confidence. But the night takes a dark turn when a sudden fire erupts in the palace, awakening a haunting memory. The king's mysterious death in a similar blaze 3 years earlier. As chaos spreads, the unthinkable happens. The Queen Mother publicly slaps Ian, blaming him for the disaster. Humiliated, yet eerily composed, Ian says nothing. But someone is watching. Huiju leaves the palace with more than just curiosity. She leaves with a plan. Because this isn't their first encounter. Years ago, she challenged Ian to his face, refusing to accept a system that favored him while holding her back. He never forgot her boldness. And now, fate has brought them back together under far more dangerous circumstances. The next day, both are pushed toward marriages they don't want. Political, strategic, suffocating. But Huiju doesn't play by anyone's rules. Instead, she makes a shocking decision. If she must marry, it will be on her terms, with someone powerful enough to match her. Her target? Grand Prince Ian. After relentless attempts, she finally secures a private audience. The palace watches closely. The Queen Mother begins to scheme. And when Huiju finally stands before Ian, elegant, fearless, and completely unapologetic, she drops a bombshell that could shake the entire royal family. Let's get married. In a world of power plays, hidden enemies, and burning secrets, this proposal might be the most dangerous move of all. Past grudges, hidden truths, and a scandal ready to explode. This is where the game turns deadly. We're thrown back to the 64th archery exhibition at Sangyeongwon, where rivalry burned hotter than the arrows in the air. Minsuk openly mocked Huiju, determined to break her spirit in front of everyone. But just when the tension peaked, Prince Ian stepped in, silencing him with quiet authority. Even then, Huiju wasn't alone. Jongwoo stood by her side, encouraging her as she faced both elite arrogance and royal pressure. Watching it all unfold was the king himself, clearly displeased with Ian's bold decisions. That day wasn't just a competition. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. Back in the present, Huiju stands before Ian once again, this time not as a student, but as a woman who refuses to lose. She lays everything on the table. Her wealth, her brilliance, her beauty, even her broken family. Perfect deal. And yet, Ian rejects her. But Huiju doesn't retreat. She adapts. While the Queen Mother begins quietly pulling strings in the background, Huiju turns rejection into strategy. She digs into Ian's life, learns his schedule, and starts appearing everywhere he goes, turning coincidence into calculated pursuit. At the same time, she destroys every forced marriage attempt thrown her way, humiliating a suitor so badly he walks away first. She's not looking for love. She's hunting for power. But something unexpected begins to stir. When Ian hears she was seen with another man, something shifts. Jealousy, sharp and unfamiliar. He denies it, but even his closest aide notices the crack in his calm. Meanwhile, dark secrets from the past resurface. The Queen Mother, Irang, is haunted by the night everything changed. The night she burned the king's abdication decree, and the palace went up in flames. A fire that killed the king. A fire that left Ian broken, sleepless, and silently suffering ever since. Even now, the trauma grips him, turning nights into nightmares. As tensions rise, the young king is forced into the spotlight, but he falters. And just as the royal family teeters on embarrassment, Ian steps in once again, effortlessly saving the moment. And standing among the honored guests, Huiju. When she accepts her award, she doesn't just follow tradition. She bends it. She boldly draws attention, subtly pulling Ian into her orbit once more. But fate pushes them even closer. That night, Ian collapses with a fever, hiding away from the palace. When Huiju finds him, she doesn't hesitate. She steps in, calls her own doctor, and protects him in silence. For the first time, she chooses care over strategy. But secrets don't stay buried for long. The Queen Mother arrives. She sees enough. And by morning, the scandal explodes. Headlines scream, Huiju is the prince's secret lover. Rumors spiral wildly, even hinting at pregnancy. The nation is shaken. But while everyone else panics, Huiju smiles. To her, this isn't disaster. It's opportunity. The Queen Mother sees it as the perfect weapon to destroy them both. Politicians use it as a distraction. The palace tightens its grip. And in the middle of it all, Ian makes a move no one expects. Instead of running, he calls Huiju to him. Alone, face to face. He apologizes, knowing she'll carry the weight of public judgment. But when he asks what she truly wants, her answer doesn't change. I want to marry you, not for love, not for romance, for power, for victory, for revenge. And this time, Ian doesn't refuse. He accepts, but not without a warning that chills everything. Then be ready to stand against the entire nation, because this isn't just a marriage. It's a war. Love, power, and deception collide, and this time the entire nation is watching. The palace gates swing open as Prince Ian and Huiju arrive together, cameras flashing, reporters shouting. Without a word, he steps out and offers her his hand. That single gesture says everything. Inside those walls, however, this isn't romance, it's strategy. Before the public reveal, Ian had already challenged her. Win the people or lose everything. And Huiju delivers. Her PR machine spins the narrative flawlessly. A bold, self-made woman capturing the heart of a royal prince. The public begins to shift. But not everyone is convinced. The Queen Mother summons Ian immediately, demanding answers. Calm as ever, he confirms it, he's serious about Huiju. He even mocks the pregnancy rumors, brushing them off with unsettling confidence. Yet the real shock comes moments later. Ian finds Huiju, with the young king, feeding him. The room turns cold. He quickly pulls the king away, knowing one wrong move could destroy her. The palace is not a place for mistakes. It's a battlefield disguised in silk. And Huiju? She adapts instantly. She asks him a dangerous question. If I stand against the Queen Mother, will you stand with me? His answer comes easily. I'll choose you. But what follows is even more dangerous. To sell their love. Ian leans in close, too close. His voice low, his presence overwhelming. The line between acting and reality begins to blur. And when he orders that they share a room, even the palace staff can't tell what's real anymore. That night, behind closed doors, it's chaos. Bickering, tension, stolen blankets. Outside, whispers of passion spread like wildfire. By morning, the scandal has evolved into obsession. Huiju fuels it further, walking into work in the same outfit, proudly owning the narrative. Hate or love, she doesn't care. Attention is power, and she's winning. But beneath the surface, cracks deepen. The young king trembles under pressure. Old wounds resurface. Memories of a forced royal marriage, a brother Ian couldn't save. And now, history feels like it's repeating itself. The Queen Mother strikes again, pretending illness to delay the wedding. Meanwhile, Jongwoo steps in, questioning Huiju's motives. She claims love. But his heart isn't convinced. Because deep down, he knows the truth. He's loved her all along. Then everything spirals. Huiju is attacked in public, harassed, humiliated, but she doesn't break. She stands her ground, colder than ever. Even at home, her own father turns against her, blaming her existence, her ambition, her very identity. Still, she refuses to bend. And when Ian senses something is wrong, he does the unthinkable. He shows up at her door, not as a prince, but as someone who cares. What starts as a simple meal turns into something softer, something real. But just as quickly, danger closes in again. She moves into his private residence. The palace watches. And then, everything explodes. Men in black storm in, accusing Huiju of being behind the royal fire. Her past statements against the monarchy are dragged into the light. She's no longer just controversial. She's a suspect, dragged toward interrogation, abandoned by protocol, with Ian unreachable. It looks like the end, until he appears, right on time, standing between her and the entire palace. The Queen Mother pushes harder, accusing, provoking, but Ian doesn't flinch. He turns the accusation back on her, daring her to take him down too. And just when the tension peaks, Huiju collapses. Or does she? The act works. Ian lifts her into his arms, shielding her completely, issuing a chilling challenge to the Queen Mother. From that moment on, the palace changes. Whispers spread like wildfire. This isn't politics anymore. This is love. But is it? Because behind closed doors, Huiju laughs about the performance, while Ian quietly ensures her safety. The game is still on, but now the stakes feel different. That night, under the silence of the palace walls, Huiju sneaks back to him. A quiet meeting, a shared moment, tea, laughter, something softer than strategy. Then suddenly, he reaches for her, pulls her close, and kisses her. Petals fall. Time stops, and for the first time, neither of them is acting. Before she leaves, he gives her something deeply personal. His hopi, a symbol of identity, power, and protection. She jokes, asking if it can summon a dragon. He answers quietly, "It will summon me." And just like that, what started as a calculated alliance begins to feel dangerously real. Love, strategy, and danger collide again. But this time, even the rules of the palace can't contain them. It begins with a kiss. Not just any kiss, but one staged under flashing cameras and hungry headlines. Prince Ian pulls Huiju close, and to the world, it looks like passion. Only she knows the truth. It's a performance. A calculated move to control the narrative. A whispered warning confirms it, they're being watched. So she plays along. But the damage is done. The entire palace erupts the next day. The kiss becomes gossip, politics, and ammunition all at once. Inside the royal council, Ian refuses to back down. He demands to go public with their relationship, ignoring whispers about Huiju's illegitimacy. Prime Minister Zhongwu supports him, but others push back, especially those determined to erase Huiju from the royal equation entirely. The Queen Mother, Irang, fumes in silence. Behind the scenes, plans begin to form to remove Huiju from the picture. But she isn't someone you simply erase. Instead of retreating, Huiju escalates. She pushes for visibility, dragging Ian into public spaces, turning their fake romance into a national spectacle. From palace halls to baseball stadiums, she refuses to hide. And the public is watching. At a baseball game, she appears beside Ian wearing confidence like armor. A matching jersey becomes a symbol of what could be, but jealousy brews when Zhongwu enters the picture. Even casual interactions between Huiju and the Prime Minister are enough to crack Ian's composure. But love is never simple in a kingdom built on control. The crowd demands a kiss. Cameras lock in. The moment freezes. And once again, Ian leans in and whispers. But instead of giving in, Huiju refuses, choosing decorum over impulse. The tension between them only deepens. Yet beneath the spectacle, something darker stirs. Ian's life is governed by restrictions: what he can eat, where he can go, even how he can exist in public. When Huiju learns this, she's stunned. He has lived his entire life under invisible chains. For him, love is not freedom, it is risk. Still, he allows her into his world. Even as the Queen Mother tightens her grip, even as court politics grow sharper, Ian continues bending rules quietly for her. But power always pushes back. Court Lady Jean Suk attempts to discipline Huiju, but even strict royal order bends under her unpredictable presence, turning training sessions into chaos, laughter, and unexpected intimacy. Meanwhile, political pressure escalates. Zhongwu reveals hidden agendas. Irang manipulates succession fears. And a new royal event involving the Kim family threatens to lock Ian into an unwanted alliance. But the most dangerous shift comes quietly. Huiju stops asking whether this is real, and starts acting like it is. Then everything fractures. A royal drive meant to be routine turns catastrophic when Huiju's car malfunctions. The vehicle accelerates uncontrollably, racing toward disaster with the young king inside. Panic spreads. No one can stop it. until Ian does the unthinkable. He drives straight into its path. Impact. Metal screams. Silence follows. Blood runs down his face as he steps out of the wreckage, standing between Huiju and destruction itself. For the first time, the performance is gone. No cameras. No strategy. No act. Just truth. And as Huiju looks at him through shock and fading vision, everything they built, the lies, the plans, the games, collapses into something far more dangerous than politics. Feelings they never agreed to have. Everything changes in a single moment of impact. Prince Ian doesn't hesitate. He crashes his car into Huiju's, taking the full force of the collision. The decision saves both her life and the young king's, but leaves Ian injured and unconscious as chaos erupts across the palace. Within minutes, the news reaches Irang. The Queen Mother rushes to the royal hospital, where Zhongwu confirms the worst is over. The king only has minor injuries, but Huiju lies unconscious, and Ian is in surgery with a damaged shoulder. Worse still, the media already knows Huiju was driving. The scandal ignites instantly. Irang demands answers, but Zhongwu blocks her at every turn, warning that a public investigation could endanger the young king's position. Reluctantly, she steps back, but the silence is temporary. Orders are already being made behind the scenes. Elsewhere in the hospital, Ian's surgery is a success. He will survive. And then Huiju wakes. The moment the young king touches her hand, she opens her eyes. Relief floods her face when she learns he's safe. But the second she hears Ian is in surgery, she's already moving, ignoring her own condition to go to him. What she finds softens everything. Ian, bruised but alive. Their usual tension melts into something quieter, more fragile. She teases him about his injury. He gently checks her face like he needs proof she's real. For a moment, the chaos outside disappears. Then reality returns. They are still a scandal, still a threat, still a problem the palace wants erased. At home, Huiju is met with indifference from her father and suspicion from her family. Taejun sees only damage control and collapsing stocks. No one asks if she's okay. Only Hayoung shows up at the hospital. Only Zhongwu seems to understand the political danger surrounding her. And when she is forced to admit that her marriage to Ian is a contract arrangement, even he is shaken enough to offer something unexpected. Himself as an alternative. But Huiju refuses, because despite everything, she is still tied to Ian. Meanwhile, Ian leaves the hospital without seeing her. Not out of neglect, but avoidance. He overheard something that changed everything. Huiju told Zhongwu she only wants him for status. Cuts deeper than the accident. At his private residence, he makes a decision before she can reach him. When Huiju arrives, she doesn't find reconciliation. She finds rejection. "I'm ending it for your protection," he tells her, claiming their engagement is too dangerous. Someone tampered with her car. The palace is unstable, and she is, in his words, too disruptive to survive inside the royal system. Huiju doesn't cry, but she is shattered. And just as she leaves, she learns something worse. He didn't choose this alone. Zhongwu pushed him to do it. Still, Ian is convinced he's saving her. But Huiju isn't so easily protected. She begins digging into the car sabotage immediately, while Ian quietly prepares a final gesture. An exclusive inner court banquet invitation. A symbolic farewell disguised as privilege. She rejects it, again and again, until Ian loses patience and demands she face him directly. When they finally meet, everything cracks. She calls him a coward. He calls it sacrifice. She threatens him in frustration. He physically steps in, injures himself stopping her, and suddenly the power dynamic shifts again. Blood, silence, and a scarf wrapped around his wound become more honest than any conversation they've had. For the first time, she tells him plainly, she didn't ask for safety. She asked for his status. Nothing more. And Ian, despite everything, still defends her. Because even when she pushes him away, he refuses to believe she means harm. Outside the palace, the investigation into the car sabotage closes in, only for the lead suspect to suddenly die before answers can surface. At the same time, Zhongwu is forced to confront his own feelings for Huiju, realizing too late that politics and emotion are no longer separate in this game. Then comes the inner court banquet, the most exclusive event in the kingdom. 20 elite nobles, 0 mistakes allowed. Huiju arrives late, in a modern white suit, a direct challenge to Irang's authority, culture, and control. The Queen Mother tries to humiliate her subtly, but Huiju doesn't flinch. She answers everything with calm defiance. even claiming she simply got lost in the palace. Then Ian appears, and everything changes again. He walks beside her, not ahead of her, and asks her to teach him how to lead without submitting. For the first time, they move as equals in public view, drawing whispers, envy, and obsession from every direction. And beneath it all, the palace remembers an older moment. 2 students at Sangyeong-won, an archery field, a victory no one knew what to do with, a prince who called her pretty, and a rivalry that was never just competition. It was the beginning of everything that was still unfolding. The palace transforms into a stage where love, politics, and betrayal blur beyond recognition. Prince Ian urges Huiju to prepare quickly for the after-party. His tone sharp but focused. Time is no longer a luxury. Elsewhere, the young King Ihun insists on attending, unaware that he's stepping into a storm carefully designed by adults around him. At the center of it all, Irang is already moving pieces. She arrives with Jongwoo and introduces him to a carefully chosen woman, her preferred match for Ian. In her mind, the engagement to Huiju is temporary, a spectacle that will collapse once the night ends. But she is wrong. When the royal couple steps into the hall, the entire room shifts. Eyes follow them as they take the dance floor, their first dance becoming a silent declaration of war disguised as elegance. Then everything shatters. At the end of the dance, Ian drops to one knee. He proposes with his late mother's ring. The palace freezes. Irang is stunned. Jongwoo is speechless. Even the media stops breathing for a second before exploding into chaos. And then, against all expectations, the young king gives his blessing. The narrative Irang built begins to collapse in real time. Jongwoo steps outside, overwhelmed, only to be followed by Irang, who demands political interference. She wants the engagement destroyed through the cabinet. But Jongwoo refuses, warning her that open opposition will fracture the royal image beyond repair. Inside the palace, alliances shift quietly. Jongwoo dances with Huiju, revisiting memories from their past. When he once saved her from an elevator trap meant to sabotage her, his support comes with a condition. She must never lie to him again. Even as he smiles, his eyes linger on her longer than they should. Across the room, Ian watches, and Irang watches him watching her. The war is no longer hidden. Later, alone with Huiju, Ian makes something clear: the ring is not a gift. It is a symbol of control, a national treasure tied to rules, return, and inevitability. Yet when she tries to remove it, he stops her. Not because of protocol, but because of something far more personal. Memory, loss, a father who withheld affection, a mother who left only one ring behind. For a moment, the prince and the woman are not rivals or pawns. They are 2 people shaped by absence. Huiju softens. He fixes her hair. She allows it. But the illusion of peace doesn't last. The engagement becomes a national spectacle. The media celebrates it. Families react differently. Taejun sees opportunity, while Huiju's father suddenly reappears with unusual concern, trying to manage damage he never cared about before. Behind the scenes, Irang tightens her grip on the truth of the past. The forged will, the king's death, and the fire that changed everything. She warns that Huiju is not the destination, but the weapon. The palace begins preparing for a wedding that is already a battlefield. But even within strategy, emotions slip through. At Ian's residence, Huiju is now openly part of his world. Staff adjust, rules bend, and the boundary between fake engagement and reality begins to blur further when they begin drafting terms of their contract marriage. 3 years, secrecy, and emotional distance written like legal armor. Until Irang interrupts. Again, the illusion nearly collapses, but they recover just in time, masking truth beneath politeness. Still, cracks deepen. At dinner, Irang attempts psychological warfare, questioning loyalty, lineage, and even invoking the late king's death. She pushes toward accusation, suggesting betrayal, even murder. But Huiju refuses to fold. Instead, she physically removes Ian from the table. Outside, away from politics, something different happens. He asks to escape, and she takes him to her yacht. There, the rules dissolve completely. No palace, no queen mother, no cabinet, just freedom. She feeds him, teases him, cares for him in ways the royal world would never allow. He breaks rules. She bends reality. And for the first time, Ian experiences something dangerously close to peace. Then, they fall. A moment of chaos turns into closeness. Breath, silence, weightlessness. Huiju tries to pull away, but he holds her there, not as a prince, not as a strategy, just as himself. And when she tries again, he turns the moment entirely, reversing positions, taking control, reminding her of her own words. He can do whatever he wants. And then he kisses her. This time there is no audience, no performance, no whisper of strategy, only choice, only consequence. And somewhere far away, the palace continues to prepare for a wedding that no longer looks like politics, but something far more irreversible. Desire turns real, secrets tighten, and the royal marriage finally steps out of performance and into consequences. On the yacht, Prince Ian and Huiju share a kiss that no longer feels like strategy. But the moment they return, reality crashes back in. The staff immediately notices something is different, yet both of them awkwardly deny everything, pretending nothing happened. But they know better. That night, neither can sleep. Huiju replays the kiss, wondering if she crossed a line she can't undo. Ian, on the other hand, quietly relives it with a satisfaction he refuses to name. He even goes to her room, but she avoids him, pretending not to hear. The distance between them grows, even while they're getting closer. The next morning, fate keeps pulling them together anyway. A stumble, a hand offered, a moment too natural to feel accidental. Huiju, overwhelmed by her own thoughts, even goes as far as visiting a church, half-jokingly asking for an exorcism, convinced the kiss has possessed her. But Jongwoo is there too, and Ian notices. Jealousy flares instantly when he hears Jongwoo's voice near her during a call about wedding preparations. The cracks in their contract are starting to feel personal. On the way to work, Jongwoo warns her, carefully but firmly, not to get emotionally attached, because once the divorce comes, it will hurt more than she expects. Huiju refuses to admit anything, but she's already slipping. At work, she begins transferring control of parts of her company, confronting Taejun directly. Even as family tensions rise, she remains determined to prove she is the only one fit to lead. Meanwhile, at the palace, Ian selects the wedding date with the young king, choosing July, as if even time itself should bend around his decision. Then comes tradition. He is expected to visit Huiju's family. And just like that, both worlds collide again. At the wedding fitting, every small gesture becomes loaded with meaning. His hand brushing her hair, her breath catching during medical checks, even a casual question about consummation, turning the atmosphere unbearable. They talk about the kiss. Huiju dismisses it as timing circumstance, something that could have happened with anyone. Ian doesn't agree. For him, it only happened because it was her. And that difference changes everything. Behind the scenes, Irang tightens her control, probing Ian's emotions, trying to confirm whether the engagement is weakening him. But Ian turns the conversation back on her, questioning whether royal marriages have ever truly held happiness at all. Neither side answers honestly, because the truth is dangerous. At Ian's residence, the marriage contract is locked away, but alongside it lies something heavier: the burned remains of the late king's decree naming Ian as successor, a past no one is allowed to fully uncover. Even Sung-woon carries memories of that night. The fire, the confession, and Irang's chilling admission. She burned it all. Then comes the family dinner. What should have been a formal introduction becomes emotional warfare. Huiju's father suddenly shows concern, asking Ian to protect her. But to Huiju, it feels less like care and more like control. She snaps, exposing years of hypocrisy, and walks out. Ian follows. And in that quiet room away from everyone, something softer appears. Not politics, not strategy, just honesty. He tells her plainly. His world is just as broken. And if she asks, he will give her what she needs. But when she asks the real question, whether he has feelings for her, he doesn't dodge it. He admits it. He likes her, and still insists the marriage is temporary. 3 years. Then divorce. A contract with a heartbeat. Outside, others are already noticing the shift. Even Choi Hyun and Hae-young begin to suspect this arrangement is becoming something neither of them planned. Jealousy spreads quietly, Jong-woo included, who begins to realize he may be losing her in real time. When he confronts Ian later, the tension sharpens. Ian claims his feelings openly, but Jong-woo warns him, love is not what Huiju needs, but it may already be too late to matter. As the wedding approaches, messages, glances, and stolen moments begin replacing certainty. Ian texts her to eat. She smiles at his words, He watches her fall further into his world. And finally, the wedding day arrives. Bright, public, unstoppable. Ian is visibly happier than anyone else, as if waiting to finally call her his wife is the only thing that's kept him going. Even her stumble during the ceremony doesn't break him. It endears her more. But not everyone is celebrating. Jong-woo struggles silently. Irang watches carefully. And something darker continues to loom beneath the surface of the royal celebration. The ceremony completes. The couple walks forward as newlyweds. Applause erupts. But as they arrive at the palace to present themselves to the king, the moment collapses without warning. Huiju suddenly falls. Silence hits the palace like a blade. And everything they built, love, contract, politics, illusion, hangs suspended between triumph and disaster. Huiju collapses just as she and Prince Ian officially present themselves at the palace. Panic erupts instantly. Ian takes control, warning everyone that anyone responsible will not be forgiven. He orders Choi Hyun to contact Huiju's father and immediately moves her to Castle Hospital instead of the Royal Hospital. Jong-woo clears the roads to ensure she gets there in time. But the shock doesn't end there. At home, Sung-woon watches the news in disbelief, confused, as though the situation is not what he expected at all. At the hospital, doctors quickly diagnose Huiju with digoxin poisoning. The dose was close to fatal, but because she wasn't a regular user, she survives. They confirm it was deliberate. Outside, tensions explode. Hyung-guk slaps Ian, demanding answers, while Irang pretends to be just as shocked as everyone else. But no one trusts the coincidence anymore. Jong-woo loses control and demands a full investigation, even ordering an official royal inquiry. For the first time, the palace is publicly placed under scrutiny. The media is stunned. Inside the chaos, Huiju finally wakes. She is safe, but the danger is far from over. Ian rushes to her, breaking down in relief as he holds her, confessing how close he came to losing her. For a moment, the prince isn't royal, just human. But peace doesn't last. Ian is taken for questioning, while Jong-woo begins uncovering something darker. Huiju may not have been the intended target at all. It may have been Ian. The poison, the cups, the timing, everything points to a setup linked to the royal system itself. As investigations widen, Irang tightens her control behind the scenes, while Ian turns the palace into a fortress around Huiju. Back at Castle Hospital, Huiju cannot rest. Ian calls her and orders her back to the palace for protection. The next day, she is discharged under heavy monitoring and quietly reshaped by PR teams into a tragic heroine for public sympathy. The media narrative begins to shift in her favor. But inside the palace, nothing feels safe. Irang pretends to welcome Huiju back warmly while quietly positioning herself to take over her duties. Ian immediately shuts it down, refusing to let her near Huiju's role or influence. Even the young king shows rare concern, sensing the weight of the situation. Amid the tension, Huiju and Ian finally find brief moments alone. She admits her fear that she was the real target. Ian coldly responds that it doesn't matter, as long as she survives. Her anger breaks through, but so does his relief. Elsewhere, clues begin to surface. The poison may have been linked to people with access to Ian's medical history, and the investigation quietly circles closer to Irang. Jong-woo confirms the cup switch theory, while Ariam's nervous behavior raises suspicion. At night, Ian refuses to leave Huiju's side, even as he jokes about their marriage consummation and teases her into flustered silence. His protectiveness is absolute. He refuses distance, even sleep. The bond between them deepens, quietly and dangerously. Soon after, they prepare for their first public appearance as a married couple at their old high school. The event is meant to symbolize unity, but quickly becomes another stage for power. Huiju begins her speech with confidence, and for a moment, everything feels stable. Then the media storms in. The contract marriage is exposed mid-event. Chaos erupts. Without hesitation, Ian steps in front of her, shielding her completely and pulling her out of the spotlight as cameras flash and whispers explode. And just like that, their contract stops being private. It becomes a national scandal. Prince Ian and Huiju's contract marriage is suddenly exposed to the public, throwing the palace into complete chaos. After reporters interrupt Huiju's speech at their former high school, Prince Ian immediately shields her from the cameras and rushes her out of the room. Outside, Jong-woo arrives and warns them that the media has completely surrounded the school. With no safe escape route, Ha-young and Choi-hyun secretly disguise themselves as the royal couple and drive away in the royal car to distract reporters, risking themselves to protect Huiju and Prince Ian. Meanwhile, public outrage reaches a breaking point as news spreads that the royal marriage was allegedly built on lies. Rumors accuse Huiju of receiving royal favoritism, manipulating the palace, and even avoiding investigation over the palace fire because of Prince Ian. Protesters gather outside the palace demanding that Prince Ian step down as regent. Inside Jong-woo's office, tension rises as he advises the couple to remain silent until the criticism dies down. However, Prince Ian refuses to keep pretending and shocks everyone by declaring that his feelings for Huiju are no longer fake. Huiju is stunned speechless by his confession, while Jong-woo silently struggles with jealousy after witnessing how naturally the two comfort each other. Back at the palace, Irang publicly humiliates Huiju during a meeting with the royal family. She blames Huiju for ruining the royal family's reputation and bringing disgrace to the crown. Prince Ian nearly explodes in anger while watching Huiju get insulted, clenching his fists so tightly that he bruises his own hands. Even so, Huiju quietly stops him from fighting back, showing how determined she is to endure everything beside him. At the same time, the truth behind Huiju's poisoning begins unraveling. Through a flashback, we learn that Arim secretly confessed to Jong-woo that she had been working for Sung-woon in exchange for money for her brother's surgery. She admits to applying poison to Prince Ian's goblet without knowing it was meant to kill him. Jong-woo investigates further and discovers evidence connecting Irang's father to the attempted murder. Irang is horrified when confronted with the evidence and realizes the entire royal family could collapse if the truth comes out. The deeper truth about the late king's death also resurfaces. Irang confronts her father about the night the king died and admits she only intended to burn the royal decree naming Prince Ian as successor. Sung-woon coldly warns her that no one would believe her innocence if the truth emerged. According to him, the only way to protect the throne is for Prince Ian to disappear forever. As political pressure intensifies, Jong-woo is manipulated into siding with Irang against Prince Ian. Irang cleverly uses Jong-woo's feelings for Huiju, convincing him that taking Prince Ian down is the only way to save Huiju from destruction. Eventually, Jong-woo makes his decision and joins Irang, symbolically leaving behind the rosary he always carried. Meanwhile, Prince Ian faces mounting attacks from every direction. Jong-woo demands that he deny wanting the throne and even pressures him to step down from his regency for the sake of the nation. Prince Ian refuses to abandon his position or Huiju. Tensions explode when he catches Sung-woon threatening young King Lee-hoon into signing an appeal against him. Furious, Prince Ian grabs Sung-woon by the throat and nearly chokes him to death before Huiju arrives and begs him to stop. After releasing him, Prince Ian coldly warns Sung-woon never to threaten his nephew again. Huiju later witnesses Prince Ian comforting the frightened young king and realizes how much pain he has carried since the former king's death. Through flashbacks, we see that Prince Ian overheard the late king and Irang arguing on the night of the fire and protected young Lee-hoon from hearing the terrifying truth. Moved by his kindness and loneliness, Huiju finally understands how deeply she cares for him. At the same time, Choi-hyun and Ha-young continue growing closer while helping their bosses survive the scandal. Choi-hyun opens up about being abandoned as a child and raised at Prince Ian's residence, touching Ha-young with his sincerity. As prosecutors begin investigating Castle Group and the royal family faces collapse, Huiju becomes desperate to save Prince Ian. She secretly meets Jong-woo and finally admits the truth. She has genuinely fallen in love with Prince Ian. Jong-woo is heartbroken hearing her confession but understands her feelings are real. Huiju then shocks her family by kneeling before her father and begging him for help, not to save herself, but to save Prince Ian. Back at the palace, Prince Ian remains unaware of Huiju's decision. He only waits eagerly for her return, even hiding the latest bad news from her because he wants to protect her. But when Huiju finally arrives, she runs into his arms with tears in her eyes and hugs him tightly. Confused but happy, Prince Ian asks why she is suddenly being affectionate. Heartbroken, Huiju looks at the man she loves and quietly asks him for a divorce. Huiju begs her father to help save Prince Ian before returning to the palace with a painful decision. She asks Prince Ian for a divorce, completely catching him off guard. When he asks why, she coldly claims he has nothing left to offer her and says she must protect Castle Group and secure what remains of her inheritance. Even as he begs her to stop, she continues pushing him away, reminding him that he once promised not to bind her to him. Heartbroken, Prince Ian isolates himself in the late king's chambers and reflects on the loneliness that comes with the throne. For the first time, he finally understands what his brother endured while carrying the weight of the crown. The next morning, Huiju attends the royal council meeting and boldly takes all the blame for the contract marriage scandal. Taeju surprises everyone by publicly defending Huiju and Prince Ian, claiming he wrote the marriage contract himself and threatening to sue media outlets spreading false rumors. During the meeting, shocking news shakes the palace. King Ihun willingly abdicates the throne and names Prince Ian as his successor. Sungwon immediately questions the legitimacy of the decision, but Prince Ian firmly shuts him down while formally refusing the throne for the first time, as royal tradition requires. Afterward, Huiju chases after Prince Ian to explain her actions, but he accuses her of not trusting him enough to protect them both and walks away hurt. Meanwhile, Irang completely loses control after hearing about Ihun's abdication. Jongwoo pressures her to stop the chaos before the third royal request is made official, while Sungwon secretly prepares another dangerous plan. Prince Ian hides away at his private residence while ignoring Huiju's calls. Unable to watch Huiju suffer any longer, Court Lady Jin-suk urges her to go after him before the palace gates close. Huiju rushes to his private residence, finally confesses her feelings, and kisses him first. Prince Ian passionately kisses her back, and the two finally stop denying their love for each other. The following morning, Prince Ian opens up about his fear of becoming king and his guilt over the late king's death. Huiju reassures him that protecting the people he loves does not make him greedy and promises to stay by his side. Back at the palace, Irang desperately begs Prince Ian to refuse the throne. She reveals that she once dreamed of becoming a pianist and that Prince Ian had been her first love before her father forced her into becoming crown princess. Still, Prince Ian refuses to back down and vows to protect his nephew properly from now on. On the day Prince Ian is expected to officially accept the throne, Huiju proudly supports him, while Ihun tearfully admits to Irang that he knew the truth about the late king's final wishes all along. At the same time, Jongwoo mysteriously delays heading to the council hall while Sungwon acts strangely calm. Moments later, a massive explosion tears through the council hall with Prince Ian still inside. Huiju runs toward the chaos in horror as Haeyoung confirms her worst fear. Prince Ian was caught in the blast while Sungwon watches with satisfaction. Following the shocking explosion inside the council hall, the truth behind Prince Ian's presence there is finally revealed. Before the ceremony, he had received a message from Jongwoo asking to meet privately. At the same time, Haeyoung was sent away to escort King Ihun to the throne hall, leaving Prince Ian alone when the explosion suddenly tore through the building. As flames consume the hall, Huiju ignores everyone's warnings and rushes inside to save her husband. Prince Ian hears her desperately calling his name while trapped beneath the rubble, but he loses consciousness before he can stop her from risking her life for him. Refusing to give up, Huiju struggles to drag him out of the fire until Choi Hyun arrives and helps carry the prince to safety. The terrifying incident leaves the entire palace shaken. Irang panics after hearing about the explosion, while young King Yoon breaks down in tears, terrified that he is about to lose another family member. Meanwhile, Prince Ian falls into a mild coma, forcing Huiju to move him into their private chambers where she personally watches over him day and night instead of leaving him vulnerable at the hospital. As Huiju stays by his bedside, Jongwoo arrives pretending to be concerned, but his strange behavior only deepens her suspicions. Haeyoung later confirms that Prince Ian had gone to the council hall specifically to meet Jongwoo, causing Huiju to quietly question whether he may somehow be connected to the explosion. Outside the palace, rumors spread rapidly that Prince Ian has died from his injuries, causing nationwide panic. While De-young and Taeju desperately try contacting Huiju, she ignores everyone and focuses only on protecting her husband. At the same time, Jongwoo refuses to release any official statement until Prince Ian wakes up, making the political atmosphere even more tense. Determined to uncover the truth, Huiju launches her own investigation into the explosion. She orders her staff to investigate everyone who entered the council hall over the past month and personally confronts Irang to gain permission to investigate the royal staff as well. This time, Huiju no longer hides her suspicions and openly challenges Irang, even pouring out the tea served to her as a warning that she no longer trusts anyone inside the palace. Meanwhile, Jongwoo secretly pressures Irang to become the next regent if Prince Ian dies, but everything changes when the prince suddenly wakes up and returns to the palace alive. Huiju rushes into his arms the moment she hears the news, unable to hide her relief as he apologizes for making her worry. However, while Prince Ian recovers, Jongwoo secretly contacts Sungwon and orders him to clean up any remaining evidence now that the prince has survived. Around the same time, Irang finally learns the horrifying truth that Sungwon himself ordered the gas explosion inside the council hall. Realizing how dangerous her father truly is, she decides to betray him in order to protect Yoon and the crown. Irang later confesses everything to Prince Ian, handing over evidence of Sungwon's crimes and begging him to spare her son from punishment. Although Prince Ian warns her about the consequences of her actions, she accepts whatever punishment awaits her as long as Yoon remains safe. At the same time, Huiju directly confronts Jongwoo during a hunting ceremony, subtly accusing him of manipulating the investigation and questioning the suspiciously fast arrest of a royal guard blamed for the fire. Her distrust toward him continues growing stronger, especially as Prince Ian remains conflicted about whether he can still trust his longtime friend. The palace is thrown into chaos once Sungwon is finally arrested and his crimes become public knowledge. The revelation shocks the nation and completely changes the balance of power inside the royal family. Irang tearfully tells Yoon to rely on Prince Ian from now on whenever he feels afraid, finally accepting that her son's safety lies in his uncle's hands. Prince Ian later meets Sungwon in prison and coldly informs him that Irang personally turned him in. He makes it clear that Irang and Yoon's future now depends entirely on whether Sungwon truly repents for everything he has done. Meanwhile, Jongwoo desperately tries convincing the cabinet to stop Prince Ian from carrying out his shocking future plans for the monarchy. During a private conversation with Jongwoo, Huiju realizes they are no longer allies after he continues defending his actions in the name of protecting the nation. She openly declares that they now stand on opposing sides. As political tensions continue rising and the palace struggles to recover from betrayal, murder attempts, and conspiracies, Prince Ian finally accepts the throne. In a breathtaking royal ceremony witnessed by the entire nation, he officially ascends as king, beginning a new era that promises both hope and dangerous uncertainty for the future of the monarchy. The final chapter begins with a shocking announcement that leaves the entire royal court speechless. Ian reveals that his very first decision as king will be abolishing the monarchy completely. While politicians, royal family members, and powerful elites panic over losing their influence, Huiju stands firmly beside him and supports his decision despite knowing how dangerous the situation could become. The cabinet immediately starts fighting back. Jongwoo tries everything possible to block the plan by preventing a public survey and even cutting off financial support to the palace. However, Huiju refuses to let Ian struggle alone and personally steps in to handle the palace expenses until things stabilize. At the same time, Jongwoo retaliates by launching investigations into Castle Group's finances, hoping to pressure Huiju's family into abandoning the king. Instead of turning against her, Huiju's family surprisingly chooses to support her for the first time. Taeju secretly exposes the cabinet's abuse of power to the media, while Hyun-guk warns Huiju not to fall for Jongwoo's schemes. Even though Huiju is surprised by their loyalty, she quietly admits that she likes finally having her family on her side. Meanwhile, Irang visits her father in prison to officially cut ties with him and start over as a better parent for Yoon. During the visit, she learns a horrifying truth. Jongwoo knew about the deadly gas explosion and intentionally used it to lure Prince Ian into danger. Later, Jongwoo personally threatens Irang, demanding that she oppose the abolition of the monarchy during the royal family meeting. He blackmails her by threatening to expose the hidden royal decree involving her son if she refuses to cooperate. Jongwoo also openly admits that he attempted to kill Prince Ian and has no intention of stopping. Realizing how dangerous he truly is, Irang secretly records his confession and eventually hands it over to Huiju. Although devastated that her suspicions were correct all along, Huiju decides she will personally confront him because it will hurt him the most coming from her. During a heated royal family meeting, tensions finally explode. Ian challenges everyone by exposing the selfish reasons they want to keep the monarchy alive, while Jongwoo argues that the crown represents more than money and power. Before things can escalate further, Huiju interrupts the meeting and publicly reveals Jongwoo's crimes by playing the recording for everyone to hear. Some members attempt to defend him, but Ian warns that anyone protecting him will be treated as an accomplice. Even after being exposed, Jongwoo shamelessly blames Ian for everything and admits that his obsession with Huiju drove him to attempt murder. Ian calmly destroys his argument by reminding him that Huiju was never something he owned in the first place. Moments later, the police arrive and arrest Jongwoo, finally ending his reign of manipulation and betrayal. Although deeply hurt by the betrayal of someone close to him, Ian finds comfort in Huiju's unwavering support. With Jongwoo gone, Ian proceeds with the nationwide public vote. In the end, the people choose to end the monarchy, and Ian honors their wishes without hesitation. He peacefully gives up the throne and officially stops being recognized as king, choosing instead to live simply as Lee Ian. 3 years later, everyone has moved forward with their lives. Huiju returns to Castle Beauty and becomes even more involved in the family business after Taeju temporarily steps away for paternity leave. Her father finally begins treating her with respect and promises to support her future as long as she proves herself capable. Ian spends his new life discovering who he really is outside the palace while continuing to stay close to Huiju despite her busy schedule. Their relationship remains strong, playful, and deeply loving. He even considers proposing properly again with a wedding ring, though Huiju jokingly questions whether they really need one. Still, their love for each other is stronger than ever. Elsewhere, Irang focuses on becoming a loving and supportive mother for Iyun, encouraging him to discover new hobbies and dreams. Ian also quietly helps by gifting Iyun a violin, showing how much he still cares about the family. In the final moments, Ian visits the royal exhibition and realizes he feels completely at peace after letting go of the crown and the burdens that came with it. The story ends with Ian and Huiju happily attending a baseball game together. When the kiss cam lands on them, they share a sweet kiss without worrying about royal rules, public image, or palace traditions anymore. Finally free to live and love however they want.